Down, one to go. A convicted killer is still on the run this afternoon. Police believe that they may have David Sweat cornered in a wooded area not far from the prison where he escaped 3 weeks ago. Richard Matt, who also escaped, was killed by police yesterday. For some insight and analysis, let's bring in former D.C. homicide detective, Fox News contributor Rod Wheeler. Rod, when we talked last week, you had said you really thought that they knew a little bit more than they were leading on. It seems as though that's not the case, that they're flying by the seat of their pants.
That's right. Well, they've had over 1,500 tips, as we know now. And what happened last week is that some of those tips had taken the law enforcement agencies down to the border between New York and Pennsylvania. But what happened, they quickly determined that those tips did not pan out. So what they had to do was reshift their priorities, and they decided to go back up to upstate New York, where they now, as we know yesterday, they confronted Mr. Matt. They took him out. He met his fate yesterday as a result of his confrontation with Customs Border Protection. And now today they've kind of set up a dragnet, a 5-mile radius in that New York area to try to.
We're looking at some video that our crew shot, pretty incredible video showing some 1,100 officers there who are surrounding what sounds like a ski area, for lack of a better term. How easy is it for, you think about 1,100 men, 5-mile radius looking for one guy? Is it possible to slip out of there, or is it pretty easy to slip out of there?
Well, you know, Leland, anything is possible. Obviously, he could have slipped out of there, but they don't believe he did. And why don't they believe that? Because there's been no indication outside of that area that this guy has been seen. There has been no reports of carjackings or robberies outside of that area. So they honestly believe, Leland, that they do have this guy cornered within a 3 to 5 mile radius. And I honestly think it's only going to be a matter of hours today before they actually capture him. The other thing about this, though, real quickly, is that this guy, Sweat, David Sweat, is not going to go out peacefully. I believe, and I think law enforcement believes, he's going to want to go out in a blaze.
Convicted cop killer.
Right, yeah, nothing to lose. But I do want to ask you a little bit about his vulnerability at this point. We know that they do have a trail, but perhaps he's not getting food that he needs. He doesn't have the water that he needs. Perhaps he's disoriented. He's alone now. We don't know if he was alone this whole time. Talk to me about what position he's in.
He's very desperate. All of those things you just mentioned adds up to an individual that's very desperate. He's going to do whatever it takes for him to stay out. And see, that's why it's so important that the people living in that area up there stay indoors, keep their doors locked, because this guy is going to try to take a hostage if he can. He's going to try to steal vehicles. They believe, Elizabeth, that he has weapons as well. Just like the other individual yesterday, Matt had a weapon. They believe that Sweat has a weapon. So they're anticipating, confronting this guy, and it's going to be some bloodshed, we believe.
When you talk about confronting somebody, each one of these police officers that we see at a checkpoint, they have to realize that at any moment, they all of a sudden could come face to face with David Sweat, somebody they know have killed police officers before, isn't going to hesitate. Are the rules of engagement any different in terms of the use of deadly force for these guys?
No, and that's an excellent question. And the reason I say that is because, honestly, law enforcement would like to take David Sweat in peacefully. But if he can't go, if he doesn't want to go peacefully.
Well, they'd love to talk to him and figure out how he got out.
Well, yeah, and they're going to try to have to figure that out, whether or not he assists them with that or not. But they want to take him in peacefully, but they also know that he probably will not want to go peacefully. Now, it was a tactical unit, I don't know if you know this, yesterday, that actually confronted Matt, the other guy.
And by tactical, you mean like a SWAT team, like the guys we see now?
These are highly trained, very elite group of individuals. This is all they do. I mean, they train day in and day out for confronting the worst of the worst. And I can tell you, David Sweat is the worst of the worst when it comes to dealing with criminals. So they know that they're up against the fight.
Are you surprised that they stayed in the New York area?
Of the what now?
The New York. Are you surprised they stayed in that state area?
In a way, I am surprised, and I'll tell you why, Elizabeth, real quickly. This was a very sophisticated, very meticulous breakout. I mean, they took a lot of time, but it almost seems like they only went up to the point whereby they exited out of that manhole, and then when Joyce Mitchell, who was the employee that was supposed to assist them, when she wasn't there, their plans fell apart. So what did they have to wind up doing? Running out into that terrainous area up there, that forestry area, and that's where they've stayed the entire time, which is really a surprise.
Yeah, because your initial reaction when you see the location of the Clinton facility is that you think to yourself, oh, they must have gone to the border. They must have gotten out of town.
To the border or hopped a train or did anything.
Right. Any of those kind of ways they could have got out of that area, but they stayed in that area for one reason or another, and hopefully today they'll be able to catch the other guy, Sweat, and hopefully they'll be able to take him alive. But if not, they're going to have to accommodate him.
Sundown up there in about 8 hours.
That's right.
We sure would get some more insight as to how and why and everything else.
That's right, absolutely.
Thanks, Rod.
Sure, thank you guys.
Appreciate it. Coming up is another